Exclusive.
Something terrible is happening.
Something terrible is happening.
Something terrible is happening.
Something terrible is happening.
Health insurance executives are getting a bad rap.
It's true. Something terrible is happening. But it isn't health insurance executives who are getting the bad rap. It's hardworking American citizens that are peacefully protesting in the streets against an out-of-control federal government.
As the healthcare debate heats up,
We need to remember who the real victims are.
Health insurance executives.
Actually, the real victims will be the millions of Americans who will no longer have a choice about their own healthcare coverage. You see, when Senator John Ensign, a Republican from Nevada, inquired about the newly added amendments to the healthcare bill added by House Democrats that would levy penalties on American citizens who chose not to purchase healthcare coverage, he received a handwritten letter stating that the fine would be $1,900 and failure to pay could land you 1 year in jail and an additional $25,000 fine. The letter was signed, sincerely, Tom Barthold, Chief of Staff for the Joint Committee on Taxation.
People are saying a lot of mean things about health insurance companies and their executives, and it's got to stop.
These great businessmen are American heroes.
So why is Obama trying to reform healthcare when insurance companies are doing just fine, making billions of dollars of profit?
Obama, why?
These so-called actors made far more for their latest box office flop than the average insurance company executive made in a year. Maybe they should redistribute some of their wealth to the extras in their movies that are only getting paid $50 to $100 a day, or less. Or what about the janitors who mopped up their temper tantrum after they threw their latte on the floor because it wasn't hot enough or cold enough or whatever? When people say billions of dollars of profit, it sounds like a lot, I know. But for an industry that accounts for 1/5 of the nation's GDP, it really isn't. The truth is, the average insurance company pays out more than 85% of what it makes in premiums in healthcare benefits. Only about 5% of the remainder is actual profit. This is not very much when compared to other industries.
Insurance companies need our support because they keep our selfish priorities in check when we can't.
Please, doctor, my daughter's dying. She needs medication.
think about somebody else for once.
If my kid falls off his bike and breaks his leg, he should have to pay that money out of pocket, out of his allowance.
How else is he going to learn not to fall off that bike?
This is just ridiculous. I don't even know where to begin. Regardless of legal citizenship, you have 3 rights in every emergency room in the United States. 1, the right to stabilizing care. 2, the hospital must treat your injury without inquiring about your ability to pay. 3, hospitals cannot transfer patients until their condition has been stabilized. Ultimately, it's my insurance premiums that will go up after you don't pay for your kid's broken leg. But why should you have to be responsible for your kid? That's the government's problem, right?
And insurance companies are detail-oriented enough to deny claims for things like typos. If you spell something wrong, do you really deserve surgery? I don't think so.
Oh my God. Ferrell, you might want to check your facts here before you just spout off whatever bullshit cue card MoveOn.org gave you to read. I know, there's been a little buzz regarding the subject on a few liberal blog sites. What Ferrell is referring to is a memo released by the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. It describes an insurance company that rejected one man's claim because the patient's weight at the time of the surgery was listed at 310 pounds, while his weight listed on the application was only 215 pounds. The insurance company suspected that the man was fraudulently trying to cover up an obesity problem, but after realizing that it was their own agent who was responsible for the error, they ended up paying his claim. If you don't think these kinds of issues will arise in a government healthcare program, go wait down at the DMV and see how long it takes to get them to change your address on your driver's license.
80% of the American public support the public plan because it would give quality care people can actually afford.
But when you think about it, who's really supporting it, other than 80% of the American people?
And the public option would make insurance companies lower their prices and give better service in order to compete.
What's so American about competition?
Again, check your facts here. According to the Rasmussen reports and Pollster.com, only 26% of voters are strongly in favor of the health care bill, while 44% of voters strongly oppose it. Of the 26% that strongly support the bill, 67% of those voters are below the age of 30, the least affected age group and least likely to purchase their own health care because they are typically in better health than the older age groups. The public option is not going to increase competition by any stretch of the imagination. The government will be able to set prices so low that people will have to gravitate towards the public option. This will ultimately drive private insurance companies out of business. Not to mention all of the new laws that will be hidden in the 1,200-page bill that will unfairly prohibit insurance companies from taking on new clients. Much like how the government prohibits companies like FedEx from delivering mail to a post box that you own in order to give the U.S. Postal Service an unfair advantage. So you might ask, if you're paying less for insurance, How can this be a bad thing? Well, you're not exactly paying less for your insurance if you're paying taxes like the other countries that have socialized healthcare. Canadians pay upwards of 40% of their earnings to income taxes. This doesn't even include the 15% sales tax or the 5% good and services tax that's added on at every level of production. Yeah, every stage of production is taxed. Forget cigarettes, gas, liquor, and property taxes.
But health insurance companies are huge.
They need to make big profits so they can afford to give their employees health insurance.
Believe me, that stuff's not cheap.
It makes sense.
Insurance company CEOs have a right to their American dream.
And it's 5 houses.
A private plane.
$500 million in your pocket?
And a mini zoo in your backyard for exotic animals like a white tiger and pygmy horses.
Difference doesn't make what these executives decide to do with their money. Regardless of the fact that you're just making this crap up without citing any actual individuals, you don't see any insurance executives complaining about the wacky-ass shit you keep in your beach house mansions, asshole. Although I've already touched on the subject of insurance companies' profits, I'd like to point out that even if insurance companies were making a much larger profit margin than other industries, who cares? What do you think that they do with those profits? Bury them in a coffee can in the backyard? No. They reinvest that money back into the economy. They have to keep their money somewhere. Now, where would... maybe in a bank? What do you think the bank does with that money? Oh, yeah. They make loans to people like you and me. Most people think that the government creates money. And to some extent, that's true. For instance, the government is printing money right now at an alarming rate to pay off its own debt. The only problem is, this creates inflation. Just ask the German citizens who needed a wheelbarrow to haul enough money to buy a loaf of bread after World War I if this was a good idea.
Ist das eine gute Idee, Deutschland?
It was cheaper to wipe your ass with the money than it was to buy toilet paper. Alas, government does not create money. Banks make loans on your deposit up to 10 times or more. These loans enable us to buy cars, own homes, and take crazy ideas from the garage to an entire world, just like Wozniak and Jobs did with Apple Computer in 1976. However, when a government spends your tax dollars, the money may only get reinvested into the economy 1.5 to 2 times, and for pork projects that you may not even benefit from. This government spending also leads to what is referred to as crowding out. This deficit government spending can crowd out financing for other economic activity.
Insurance companies offer you variety.
They can change the price and terms of your plan at any time or stop covering you altogether.
Do you want to get rid of those options?
Most people who don't have insurance don't ever consider getting it until something bad happens. That's like not having insurance, getting into a car accident, and then trying to get an insurance company to pay for it. Insurance is a numbers game. It's a lottery that many people pay into hoping they'll never need it, and the unlucky person that does need it makes a claim. If you get hurt or sick, and it's likely that you will get hurt or sick in the future for the same reason, your insurance will have to go up because you're now a greater risk to the insurance company having to pay out another claim for you. This is why smokers, alcoholics, and the guy who gets shot out of the cannon at the circus have to pay higher insurance premiums.
So join us in the fight to protect our insurance company profits. They've looked out for our best interests for so long. Now we should look out for theirs.
And I'm not being sarcastic, not at all.
So you may be asking yourself at this point, what exactly is the purpose of this video? Well, ultimately, the Democrats want the government to take over the healthcare industry. They want you to hate insurance companies and their executives because they think that if you hate them enough, you won't care if they go out of business. They think that if you hate them enough, you won't mind paying more than half of what you make a year to the government. They think that if you hate them enough, you won't mind working the first 6 months out of the year for free. They think you won't mind being an indentured servant for the government for the first 6 months out of the year. The same thing has already happened to the tobacco industry, the fast food industry, and the firearms industry. But if you think you can tax away all of the world's problems, you're a moron. Do you really think that the government wants you to quit smoking or wear your seatbelt because they care about you so much? Get real. The fact is that these so-called actors are the poster children for people like MoveOn.org and the rest of the Democratic Party, and they don't care if they help destroy your healthcare system because they can just as easily jump into their own private jet and fly anywhere in the world to get whatever medical procedure they may need. And if you don't agree with them, they're fully prepared to call you names like dumb, racist, rednecks, or lobbyists. Look, check my facts. If you think I'm an idiot, sorry I wasted your time. But if what I'm saying here makes any kind of sense, and you don't want a bankrupt economy and an out-of-control government that's having garage sales like California does, please call Congress and tell them that you don't want socialized health care at 202-224-3121. Follow up on these people. If they don't vote the way you want them to, vote them out in 2010. The presidential election is not the only election.
MoveOn.org political action is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
You might want to do a background check on these shady assholes too while you're at it.
I think there are a lot of very rich people out there whom we can tax.
Something terrible is happening.
Something terrible is happening.
Something terrible is happening.
Something terrible is happening.
Health insurance executives are getting a bad rap.
As the healthcare debate heats up,
We need to remember who the real victims are.
Health insurance executives.
People are saying a lot of mean things about health insurance companies and their executives, and it's got to stop.
These great businessmen are American heroes.
So why is Obama trying to reform healthcare when insurance companies are doing just fine, making billions of dollars of profit?
Obama, why?
Insurance companies need our support because they keep our selfish priorities in check when we can't.
Please, doctor, my daughter's dying. She needs medication.
think about somebody else for once.
If my kid falls off his bike and breaks his leg, he should have to pay that money out of pocket, out of his allowance.
How else is he going to learn not to fall off that bike?
And insurance companies are detail-oriented enough to deny claims for things like typos. If you spell something wrong, do you really deserve surgery? I don't think so.
80% of the American public support the public plan because it would give quality care people can actually afford.
But when you think about it, who's really supporting it, other than 80% of the American people?
And the public option would make insurance companies lower their prices and give better service in order to compete.
What's so American about competition?
But health insurance companies are huge.
They need to make big profits so they can afford to give their employees health insurance.
Believe me, that stuff's not cheap.
It makes sense.
Insurance company CEOs have a right to their American dream.
And it's 5 houses.
A private plane.
$500 million in your pocket?
And a mini zoo in your backyard for exotic animals like a white tiger and pygmy horses.
Insurance companies offer you variety.
They can change the price and terms of your plan at any time or stop covering you altogether.
Do you want to get rid of those options?
So join us in the fight to protect our insurance company profits. They've looked out for our best interests for so long.
Now we should look out for theirs.
And I'm not being sarcastic, not at all.
MoveOn.org political action is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Don't give a fuck. Hey.